J.W. Williams Funeral Directors have been proudly serving the people of this community since 1918. Service is our motto. The poor, the rich, the middle class and all are given the best of care and attention at all times. You have the privilege to select what you want. In your time of need, contact the capable, the competent, and the dependable staff of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home who is genuinely concerned with your care. At J.W. Williams Funeral Home, you are aptly served by the proprietor president, Deacon Arthur L. Parker, who continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcements for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Miss Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr.
Thank you, and good morning, friends. We come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Joanna Elaine Talbert of Cordele, Georgia. The family of the infant scholar America Walker of Vienna, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Shirley Ann Palms Ray of Cordele, Georgia. Would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes, age 39, of Americus, Georgia, died Friday, May 19th in Jacksonville, Florida. The funeral service for Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes, age 39, was held Monday, May 29th in the sanctuary of the Restoration Church of Americus. The pastor, the Reverend Caleb Edge, delivered the eulogy, and Bishop George F. Edge officiated. The burial followed at the Old Corinth Church Cemetery in Leslie, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted parents, Miss Valentina Prince and Mr. Gregory Holmes, his loving sisters, Miss Camille Prince of Hinesville, Georgia, Miss Jasmine Prince of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Miss Matika Holmes, Miss Carisha Mercer, and Miss Alicia Holmes, all of Americus, Georgia. A beloved brother, Mr. Brandon Prince of Pompano Beach, Florida. His beloved grandparents, Miss Doris Daniels and Miss Maddie Williams, both of Americus, Georgia, and Mr. Samuel Prince of Pompano Beach, Florida. His beloved aunts and uncles, Miss Yvette Prince of Pompano Beach, Florida, Mr. Sammy Prince of Hawkinsville, Georgia, Miss Tammy Williams of Columbus, Georgia, Mr. Linwood Holmes, Mr. Larry Holmes of Cleveland, Ohio, Miss Cheryl Holmes of Americus, Georgia, Miss Sandra Daniels of Americus, Georgia, Miss Donna Irvin of Albany, Georgia, Mr. Derek Holmes, Mr. Winford Holmes, and his wife, Mrs. Jackie Holmes, and Miss Clarissa Holmes, all of America's Georgia. A host of beloved cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes, age 39, of America's Georgia. Miss Joanna Elaine Talbert, age 45, of 507 West 4th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Tuesday, May 16th at the Penn Presbyterian Medical Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The funeral service for Miss Joanna Elaine Talbert, age 45, was held Tuesday, May 30th, in the chapel of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home in Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved cousin, the Reverend James E. McBurrows, pastor of the Agape Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mr. Shavosky Talbert, Ms. Jabria Talbert, and Mr. Emmanuel Roundtree Jr., all of Cordele, Georgia. 4 beloved grandchildren, her loving and devoted brothers and sisters, Mr. Mackenzie Talbert and Mr. Willie Talbert, both of Cordele, Georgia, Ms. Brittany Jackson and Mr. Michael Smith, both of Sylvester, Georgia. Her beloved aunts and uncles, Miss Phyllis Talbert and her companion, Mr. Benny Hamilton of Cordele, Georgia, and Mrs. Priscilla Jackson and her husband, Mr. Ira Jackson of Sylvester, Georgia. A host of nieces, nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Miss Joanna Elaine Talbert, age 45, of 507 West 4th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. The infant scholar, America Walker, 10 days old, of 277 Truman Road, Vienna, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 24th at Navison Health in Macon, Georgia. The graveside funeral service for the infant scholar, America Walker, was held Wednesday, May 31st, at the Bay Point CME Church Cemetery in Byronville, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted parents, Mr. Jimmy Tyrone Walker Jr. and Miss Kenesha Walker of Vienna, Georgia. A loving sister, little Peyton Walker of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved grandparents, Miss Nayoka Obi and her husband, Miss Kelsey Obi of Vienna, Georgia. Mr. Cornelius Lewis and his wife, Mrs. Jennifer Lewis of Vienna, Georgia. Mr. Jimmy Tyrone Walker Sr. of Cordele, Georgia. And Miss Nakia Spivey and her husband, Mr. Charlie Spivey of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved aunts and uncles, Mr. Dequan Daniels, Miss Brianka Hunt, Mr. Markelvis Evans, all of Vienna, Georgia. Miss Janaya Walker, Mr. Jordan Walker, Mr. Travis Walker, and Mr. Cornelius Lewis Jr., all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of other relatives to include Ms. Vansuela Trotter and Mr. Victor Trotter of El Paso, Texas, survived the infant Skylar America Walker, 10 days old, of 277 Truman Road, Vienna, Georgia. Mrs. Shirley Ann Palms Ray, age 64, of 207 West 24th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Thursday, May 25th, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Shirley Ann Palms Ray, age 64, was held Saturday, June 3rd, in the sanctuary of the Beulah Land Baptist Church in Cordele, Georgia. Dr. Dwayne Daniels, pastor, the Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted sons, Mr. Carlos Gaines and his wife, Mrs. Michelle Gaines of Hinesville, Georgia, Mr. Brock Stavius Gaines of Atlanta, Georgia, and Mr. Danzinger Ray and his wife, Mrs. Tremetha Ray of Cordele, Georgia. 8 loving grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, a host of cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survived Mrs. Shirley Ann Palms Ray, age 64, of 207 West 24th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Again, the family of Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes of Americus, Georgia, the family of Mrs. Joanna Elaine Talbert of Cordele, Georgia, the family of the infant Skylar America Walker of Vienna, Georgia, the family of Mrs. Shirley Ann Palms Ray of Cordele, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you, is their prayer. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. United States Army veteran, Mr. Eugene Walker Sr., age 73, of 717 West 27th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 31st, at the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center in Dublin, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife, Mrs. Dolores Brooks Walker, his loving and devoted children, Mr. Kentavian Walker Sr. and his companion, Miss Kimberly Jones of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Latasha Walker of Savannah, Georgia, Mrs. Tamika Gunther and her husband, Mr. Jesse Gunther Jr. of Byron, Georgia, and Mr. Octavian Walker of Albany, Georgia. 13 beloved grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, his loving and devoted sisters, Miss Ruby Bryant, Miss Denise Coleman, Miss Virginia Everett, and our husband, Mr. Andrew Everett, and Miss Angelina Walker, all of Cordele, Georgia. 5 beloved sisters-in-law, 1 brother-in-law, a host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. United States Army veteran, Mr. Eugene Walker Sr., age 73, of 717 West 27th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for United States Army veteran Mr. Eugene Walker Sr., age 73, will be held Friday, June 9th at 10 a.m. in the chapel of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, will officiate. The burial with military honors will follow at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The public visitation will be Thursday, June 8th from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick, age 89, of 703 West 16th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, June 3rd at her residence in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Deacon J.C. Patrick Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Sheila Patrick of Cordele, Georgia, Mrs. Gwendolyn Dent and her husband, Mr. Michael Dent, Mrs. Deborah Sims and her husband, Mr. Charles Sims of Forest Park, Georgia, Deacon Obie Patrick and his wife, Mrs. Angela Patrick of Douglasville, Georgia, Mr. Alfred Patrick and his wife, Mrs. Patricia Patrick, and Mrs. Margaret Mobley and her husband, Mr. Walter Mobley Jr. of Cordele, Georgia. A host of beloved grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. 1 beloved sister-in-law, Miss Jessie Mae Colson of Cordele, Georgia. A host of cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick, age 89, of 703 West 16th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick, age 89, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Friends, that conclude our funeral notices for this morning. And as always, we do remind you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay, a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your pre-funeral funeral arrangements and needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, and also whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.
And now for announcements. The Friendship Baptist Church of Findlay, Georgia will observe the 109th church anniversary on Sunday, June 11th at 2 o'clock p.m. Dr. Dan James, pastor of the Mount Zion First African Baptist Church, will be the guest speaker. Dinner will be served. The Holly Grove Baptist Church first anniversary for Pastor Reverend W.G. Grover will be on Sunday, June 11th at 11 o'clock a.m. At 2 o'clock p.m., the Sandridge Baptist Church of Hawkinsville and Reverend Jeffrey Lawrence will be the special guests. Dinner will be served. Deacon Robert Woodson Jr., Chairman of Deacons. Reverend W.G. Grover is the pastor. Christ Chapel Unadilla Food Pantry will be on Saturday, June 10th, June 17th, and June 24th from 10 a.m. until 12 o'clock noon each Saturday. For more information, please call 478-627-9352. Mrs. Jeanette Taylor, Secretary. The Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them. Sunday school begins at 9 o'clock a.m., worship service at 9:30 a.m. You may join them for their Tuesday midday prayer conference at 12 o'clock noon, Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study at 6 o'clock p.m. The call-in number for the conference call is 229-329-7611. Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Chairman of Deacons. Dr. K.M. Williams is the pastor. The St. King Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each first and third Sunday at 8 o'clock a.m. for our power worship, which begins at 10:15 a.m. for their regular worship service. Reverend Woody Burnham is the pastor. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church conference call scheduled Sunday morning at 10 o'clock a.m., prayer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 o'clock noon. Bible studies held each Wednesday at 5 o'clock p.m. Call-in number is 339-209-6419. Deacon Joe Wedges, Chairman of Deacons. Dr. Dan James III is the pastor. During their morning worship service, which begins at 10:30 a.m. Mother Mary Butler, Church Mother. Deacon Johnny Wilson, Chairman of Deacons. Reverend Cecil Strother is the pastor. The New Oak Grove Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each Sunday for Sunday school at 9:15 a.m. Worship service begins at 10 o'clock a.m. Face covering is required. Deacon Alonzo Jones, Chairman of Deacons. Reverend W.W. Wilson is the pastor. The Beautiful Zion Baptist Church will celebrate the church's 96th church anniversary today, beginning at 11 o'clock a.m. Everyone has a cordial invitation to attend. Mother Grace Patrick, Church Mother. Reverend Lorinda Ray is the pastor. The Greater Gum Creek Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each first, second, third, and fourth Sunday, beginning at 10:30 a.m. Mother Norma Solomon is the church mother. Deacon Lonnie Hagerbrook is chairman of deacons. Reverend Joseph Hagerbrook is the pastor. The Jerusalem Baptist Church of Ellaville, Georgia, will observe its church's 132nd church anniversary on Sunday, June 11th at 1:30 p.m. Pastor Sandra Hill Harris of Union Hill AME Church will be the guest speaker. Dr. Deanne Holsey is the pastor. The McAfee Grove Baptist Church of Leesburg invites everyone to worship with them during their family night service Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m., small class study Thursday at 7 p.m., Sunday morning worship at 9 o'clock a.m. The call-in number is 425-436-6341. The access code is 708058. Dr. Robert L. Morgan Sr. is the pastor. The Greater New Lebanon Missionary Baptist Church of Plains, Georgia, extends a cordial invitation to everyone to their annual revival services, which will begin on Tuesday, June 6th through Thursday, June 8th, and will climax on Sunday, June 11th. On Tuesday night, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m., Pastor Mario Harris and the Mount Salem Baptist Church of Americus, Georgia, and the Green Grove Baptist Church of Americus will be in charge of the services. Wednesday, June 7th at 7 o'clock p.m., Pastor Clinton Aldridge of the Spring Hill Missionary Baptist Church Americus will be in charge of the service. Thursday, June 8th at 7 o'clock p.m., Minister Horace Holloway will be in charge of the service. On Sunday, June 11th at 11 o'clock a.m., Pastor Glenn Bryant Sr., along with the Greater New Lebanon Missionary Baptist Church, will be in charge of the services. Along with them will be the County Line Baptist Church and the Green Grove Baptist Church. Everyone has a cordial invitation to attend. Reverend Glenn Bryant Sr. is the pastor. Summer meals are available at no cost to children 18 and under in the Cordele-Crisp County area. 5 days of meals for breakfast and lunch can be picked up by parents at these route sites at the following locations. On Tuesday of each week, beginning this week, you may pick up your meals at 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock to 9:30 a.m. at the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church located at 509 3rd Street North. From 9:45 to 10:15 a.m., Sunset Homes, the housing authority, at 503 West 22nd Avenue. 10:30 until 11 o'clock a.m., Rosewood Estates, 57 Rosewood Circle. On Wednesday of each week from 9 until 9:30 a.m. at the Araby City Hall parking lot, 4110 Bedgood Avenue in Araby. From 9 a.m. until 11 o'clock a.m., you may go to the Old Crisp Middle School, 116 East 24th Avenue. I believe that's 1116 East 24th Avenue. Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Blackshear Place Event Center, which is located at 1015 Blackshear Road. From 10:45 to 11:15 a.m., Sunrise Homes, Morningside Housing, 610 North 2nd Street. 11:30 a.m. until 12 o'clock noon, First Baptist Church, which is located at 205 East 13th Avenue. Thursday of each week, you may pick up your meals from 9 until 9:30 a.m. at Thrive Church, which is located at 191 Ingram Boulevard, 9:45 to 10:15 a.m. at the C.C. Shearer Homes, 111 McClendon Court. From 10:30 to 11 o'clock a.m., you may pick up your meals on Thursdays at the Clara Scott Housing Complex, 213 North 13th Street. Again, this is summer meals that are available at no cost to children 18 and under, 5 days of meals, and they will begin this week, Tuesday, June 6th, and will continue. No meals will be given out July 4th. If you have further questions or need more information, please contact the Crisp County Board of Education Nutrition Office for more information. The Wilcox County Head Start of Rochelle is offering free child development services for eligible families with children between the ages of 3 and 5. For more information, please contact Mrs. Donna Jenkins at 229-365-2341 or 478-922-4464. Everyone has a cordial invitation to worship at the Mount Calvary Baptist Church today. Sunday school begins at 9:45 a.m. Worship service at 10:30 a.m. As we continue this morning with our announcements, we'd also like to remind you in reference to our Juneteenth celebration that will take place here in Cordele on Sunday, June 19th, beginning at 1 o'clock p.m. at the Cordele Community Clubhouse. Family fun with gospel singing, food trucks will be available. There will be many vendors will be there. So everyone has a cordial invitation to come out to the Juneteenth Freedom Festival, which is being sponsored by the local chapter of the NAACP. Again, this is on Sunday, June 19th, beginning at 1 o'clock p.m. at the Cordele Community Clubhouse. Everyone has a cordial invitation to bring your lawn chairs and come out and just enjoy an afternoon of fun, listening to gospel music and other activities. A skit will be presented as well. For more information in reference to the food truck and pop-up vendors, you are asked to contact Ms. Senecas Whitehead at 229-322-3880. The Cordele Crisp NAACP Juneteenth Freedom Festival. Reverend Isaac Owens is the president. And for more information, please contact Ms. Seneca Whitehead at 229-322-3880 in reference to food truck and the pop-up vendors. We'd also like to remind you in reference to our Sunday morning gospel program that's viewed each Sunday morning. You may watch us live each Sunday morning beginning at 7 o'clock a.m. on the J.W. Williams Funeral Home YouTube channel. The J.W. Williams Funeral Home YouTube channel, you may join us at 7 o'clock a.m. each Sunday morning. And we'd like to remind you, if by chance you just missed the program at 7 o'clock a.m., you may go back and watch our YouTube channel anytime and to catch the morning program. But please join us live each Sunday morning at 7 o'clock a.m. on the J.W. Williams Funeral Home YouTube channel. We'd also like to remind you, if you have announcements that you would like for us to share on our Sunday morning program, please have those announcements to us no later than Saturday morning, Saturday at 12 o'clock noon. Please get those announcements to us by 12 o'clock noon on the Saturday before our Sunday morning program. We appreciate you and thank you so much. That concludes our announcements for this morning.
And now for dedications. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: in loving memory of Mrs. Martha Ann Solomon, who departed this life June 1st, 2010, and would have celebrated her birthday June the 26th. Dedication requested by her beloved children, grandchildren, nieces, and the entire family. And all of us remember Sister Martha Ann Solomon, one of the lead singers and musician in our area, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Deacon O.C. Smith, better known as Deacon Bud Smith, who would have celebrated his birthday June 3rd, dedication requested by his beloved wife, Mother Leela Smith, his children, the entire Smith family, the pastor, and members of the Zion Hope Baptist Church in Winona, Georgia, where he served as chairman of the Board of Deacons for many, many years and brought many of us deacons up under him. Never will forget Deacon O.C. Smith, better known as Deacon Bud Smith, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of my sister, Mrs. Madeline Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, who departed this life June 5th, 2022. Dedication requested by our children, Vera, Rosalind, Teresa, Sandra, Frederick, Shonda, and Marilyn. All of her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, her sister Pat, her brother Norman, and the entire family, gone but not forgotten. In memory of my sister, Mrs. Maddie Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, gone but not forgotten. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: happy anniversary, happy second anniversary to my nephew, Mr. Martell and Miss Ramona Curry, who will celebrate their anniversary Monday, June 5th. Dedication requested by their mother, Miss Sandra Johnson, sister Miss April, Lakedra, and the entire family. Happy anniversary, bae, and many, many more. Happy 8th anniversary to Miss Letish and Mr. Alonzo Bivens, who will celebrate their anniversary Monday, June 5th. Dedication requested by Miss Verdell Butts and the entire family. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: happy birthday to little Richard Redding, who celebrated his birthday Tuesday, May 30th. Dedication requested by his beloved great-grandmother, Miss Bobby Joe Roberts, and the entire family. Happy birthday and many, many more. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: Deacon James Smith and family, Deacon Henry King of the Gethsemane Baptist Church, and Church Mother, Mother Mary Butler. Our first selection this morning goes out to Brother Michael Kinder of Americus, Georgia. Hope he's feeling well this morning. Deacon Johnny and Sister Vera Perry and Mother Mary Benjamin and family, Vienna, Georgia. Mother Carlton Wallace and family, Vienna, Georgia. Mr. and Mrs. Willie B. Barnes and family, Mrs. Sally Morrell and the entire Morrell family. Miss Willie Mae Leary and family of Hatley, Georgia. Mrs. Lucille Hillman and family of Ashburn, Georgia. Deacon Lawrence Williams and family of Leslie, Georgia, and Mother Janie Billingsley and family. Miss Mary Frances Davis and family, Miss Katrina Davis and family, Miss Naisha Davis and family, Miss Shawanda Donaldson and family, Mr. Justin Colbert Jr. and family, Miss Teresa Stubbins and family, Mr. Joseph Glenn and family, Miss Debbie Cross and family, Miss Mary Taylor and family, Mother Willie McGill and family, Mrs. Burrow Patrick and family, Mrs. Aletha Askew, church clerk and trustee of the New Oak Grove Baptist Church, the Reverend and Mrs. Dion Jones and family, Mr. Judge and Mrs. Tommy Glenn and family, Miss Nellie Whitis and family, the Reverend Joseph and Mrs. Christine Hoggebrook and family, Deaconess Martha A. Cross and family, Mr. Richard and Mrs. Brenda Cross and family, Mother Lenora McNeil and family, the family of the late Reverend Bernard Maddox of Americus, Georgia, the Carson family of Americus, Georgia, the Finch family of Americus, Georgia, Mother Mamie Robinson and family, Deacon Kelvin and Sister Rosemary Robinson Jones and family, Deacon Joette Clark and family, Deacon Oscar Cook, chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Friendship Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia, and all of the members there, the Mercer family, the Fuller family, the Mitchell family, Deacon S.O.C. Outlaw and family, Mrs. Elnora Ray and family, Minister and Mrs. Robbie Williams and family, Mrs. Alma Johnson and family, Mrs. Willie Mae Cobb and family, Mrs. Ernestine Gaines and family, Mrs. Christine Gaines and family, Deacon Major Walk and family, Stuart Lonnie Barrett and family, entire Barrett family, Miss Linda Butcher and family, Miss Eula Hamilton and family, Mr. Edward Butler and family, Mrs. Carolyn Bolton and family, the entire Bolton and Perry family, the Reverend and Mrs. Charles Perry and family, Miss Anna Rose and family, Mrs. Virginia Williams and family, Mr. and Mrs. A.B. Levant and family, Mr. Wayne Foster and family, Mrs. S.A. Gay and family, Miss Gwen Henderson and family, Mrs. Eddie Ruth White and family, Mr. Nicholas Johnson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Broccoli Johnson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Dwight Johnson and family, Mr. and Mrs. Cedric Johnson and family, Mr. Marie Porter and family, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Fox and family, Elder J.C. and Minister Annette Clark and family, Mr. Robert and Mrs. Fannie Mae Polk and family, Minister Robbie and Mrs. Joanne Williams and family, Mr. Norris and Miss Gail Bimmer and family, Mr. Dolores Lemons and family, Miss Nancy Bryant and family, Mr. Joseph Bryant III and family, the Reverend Jolie Butts and family, Mother Lucinda Ray and family, Mother Grace Patrick and family, Mrs. Rosa Colbert and family, Miss Janie Mae Miller and family, the Reverend Alice Mae McKenzie and family, Mr. Frankie Lee Robinson and family, Miss Daquita Hunt and family, Mr. Artis Dawson and family, Mr. John Reese and family, Miss Barbara Adams and family, Mrs. Virginia Everett and family, Mrs. Maddie Polk and family, Mr. Jermaine Harvey and family, Deacon S. Charlie May Colson and family, Mr. Johnny and Mrs. Barbara Dennis and family, Miss Lucille McGill and family, Mrs. Gwen Westbrook and family, Chairman Deacon Sammy and Sister Shanice McGill and family, Deacon George and Miss Ann Whitehead and family, Miss Geraldine Harvey and family, Deacon Eugene and Mrs. Deborah Williams and family, Mr. Dravian McGill, Chairman of the Board of Assessors of Chris County, Mrs. Jerry Grant and family, Miss Mary Thomas and family, Deacon and Mrs. Jimmy Fagan and family, Miss Brenda Webb and family, Miss Betty Webb and family, Miss Tawana Webb and family, Mr. Travis Webb and family, Miss Doris Wise and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Layfield Buckholtz and family, Miss Lucy Baker and family, Miss Deacon Dave Chambliss and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jamie Chambliss and family, the family of the late Deacon John L. Cobb of Vienna, Georgia, Mother Adeline Lofton, church mother of the Little Rock Baptist Church of Araby, Georgia, Mrs. Maddie Mays and family, Deacon Lonnie Clayton and family, Miss Brenda Redden and family, Mr. Freddie Bimmer and family, Mrs. Viola L. Adams and family, the family of the late Reverend Bishop Lim Wright, Miss Lynette Ross and family, the family of the late Mrs. Ida Rose Oliver, Mrs. Jean Oliver Burtz and family, Deacon Sammy, Mrs. Fanny Mumford and family, Mr. Charlie and Mrs. Ruby Jean Ross and family, Miss Cheryl Allen Young and family, Dr. Bobby G and Sister Melba West and family, Mrs. Christine Anderson and family, Vienna, Georgia, retired educator Ms. Margaret Jordan of Vienna, Georgia, Ms. Hilda Ray and family, Terry Boston and family, Ms. Minister Sharonda Towns and family, Mrs. Shireen James and family. And this first selection goes out to my neighbor, Mother Theron Jones and family, and the entire Jones and Tarbert family, Mother Dorothy Tarbert and family, Deacon and Mrs. John Stubbs and family, Ms. Juanita Tarbert and family, Deacon and Mrs. Donald Tarbert and family. Our first selection for this morning.
Look where he's brought you from. Come on, fire, say.
Our next selection this morning is dedicated to the following. To Mayor Juanita Kinchin of the city of Warwick, Georgia, Mother Willie Mae Walker and family, Mother Ora Morris and family, Miss Mary Trahan and family, Miss Verdell Butts and family, Miss Leslie Gaines and family, Miss Nadine Dempsey and family, Miss Dorothy Williams and family, Miss Sandra Faye Green and family, Mr. and Mrs. Danny Jackson and family, Deaconess Carrie Brooks and family, Deacon Frank and Sister Elizabeth Brown and family, Mrs. Valerie Carter and family, Miss Sean Hutchins and family, Miss Selma Jackson and family, Mr. F.D. Lawton and family, the Redding family, Mr. Charles Daniels and family, Miss Gail Hardeman and family, Miss Dot Coleman and family, Miss Willie McGill and Corbin and family, Judge Gail Sims and family, Mr. and Mrs. Frederick Hardeman and family, Miss Loretta Coley and family, Mrs. Florine Manning and family, Mrs. Thelma Hopper and family, Mother Edna Clay and family, the family of the late Mother Ida Bell Patrick, of Cordele, Georgia, Mother Minnie Fletcher and family, Miss Annette Stembridge and family, Mr. Philip Stembridge and family, Miss Geraldine Pickens and family, Miss Minnie Jackson and family, Pastor Lamar and Minister Sharon Thomas and family, Mrs. Valerie Mercer Ross and family, Mrs. Katrina Davis and family, Mrs. Debbie Cross and family, Mrs. Levette Fields and family, Mrs. Mashonda Holmes and family, Miss Sasha White and family, Mrs. Connie Hopkins Shepherd and family, Mrs. Leslie Mae Gaines and family, the Roger and Bridges family, the Hawkins family, Mother Millie Hawkins and family, the Griffin family, Mrs. Phyllis Green and family, Mr. Steve Owens and family, Mrs. Phyllis Brooks Strickland and family, Fort Valley, Georgia, Mr. John Lee Rogers and family, Mr. George Rogers and family, Mrs. Wilhelmina Williams and family, Miss Neat Wyndham and family, Miss Faye McCray and family, Mrs. Mary Pounds and family, the Royal family. Our first selection this morning goes out to Mr. Charlie and Mrs. Watine Jackson and family, Mr. Arnett and Miss Lisa Bryant and family, Miss Lavinia James and family, Deacon and Mrs. Vet T. Crane and family, Pinehurst, Georgia, Miss Lily Crane and family, Miss Shanta K. Bowens and family, Mrs. Patsy Carter and family, Vienna, Georgia, Deacon and Mrs. Zachary Fields and family, Deacon Tommy and Mrs. Gradine Ford and family, retired educator Ms. Lucille G. Harris and family, Mrs. Mary Frances Davis and family, Mr. Joseph Glenn and family, Mrs. Gail Chanel Williams and family, Miss Corrine Passmore and family, Mrs. Dorothy Rose Jones and family, Mr. Frederick Hardeman and family, Mr. Lonnie Walker and family, Mrs. Eddie Mae Cooks and family, Mother Jessie Kate Harmon and family, Mr. Donald and Miss Ruby Daniels and family, Minister Gardner, Miss Beulah Morgan and family, Mrs. Maggie Harmon and family, Mother Pearl Reed and family, Mrs. Fanny Bivens and family, Poland, Georgia, Deaconess Connie James and family, Miss Mary Applin and family, Miss Geraldine Ford and family, the family of the late Mother Lucille Westbrook, Mrs. Martha Westbrook and family, Mrs. Carolyn Jackson Hicks and family, Mr. Alvin and Mrs. Ann Rouse and family, Miss Aletha Brown and family, Miss Burnell Welburn and family. It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. United States Army veteran, Mr. Eugene Walker Sr., age 73 of 717 West 27th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 31st at the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center in Dublin, Georgia. The funeral service for United States Army veteran Mr. Eugene Walker Sr., age 73, will be held Friday, June 9th at 10 a.m. in the chapel of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, will officiate. The burial with military honors will follow at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The public visitation will be Thursday, June 8th from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick, age 89, of 703 West 16th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, June 3rd at her residence in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick, age 89, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection for this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones were laid to rest during the past week. The family of Mr. Sanchez D. Prince Holmes of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Joanna Elaine Tarbert of Cordele, Georgia. The family of the infant Skylar America Walker of Vienna, Georgia. The family of Miss Shirley Ann Palms Ray of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of United States Army veteran Mr. Eugene Walker Sr. of Cordele, Georgia, and the family of Mother Mattie Mae Johnson Patrick of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in, to all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker. This selection goes out to my mother-in-law, Miss Billy Ann Hall, and family. Goes out to my brother, retired Chief Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, and his wife, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, and our grandson, Noble. This selection goes out to my sister, Mrs. Patsy Jackson, and her husband, Mr. Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. Goes out to my niece, Mrs. Vera Mathis, and Mrs. Rosalind Johnson Porter and family. This selection goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, program chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. Goes out to our pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, and to his wife, Sister Kathy Williams, and family. This selection goes out to our beloved Miss Easter May Sanders and family, to Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, the oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home and steward of the Bethel CME Church here in the city of Cordele, Georgia. This selection goes out to our dear friend and brother, the Reverend Johnny Dean, pastor of the New Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia, and all the members there. Goes out to our friend and brother, Deacon Jimmy Charles Montfrey, chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Crossroad Baptist Church here in the city of Cordele, Georgia, and to that pastor, the Reverend and Mrs. Nelson Maynard, and his mother, Mother Mae Maynard, and the entire Maynard and Harvey family. This election goes out to the Reverend Ivory Corbin and family, to Deacon Willie Colson Jr. and family, and the entire Colson family, Mother Vanessa Colson and family. Our final selection for this morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. In your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.